Welcome to Lesson 3 in our Unit 2 on linear equations. In this lesson, we will be working with solving two-step and multi-step equations, and we will be using the reverse order of operations. So we will be following our order of operations in reverse. So we will be doing any additions and subtractions first, followed by our multiplications and divisions. So let's jump right into some examples and get started here. So we're going to start off. We have 5x plus 4 equals 14. So remember, we're using the reverse order of operations, so any additions and subtractions get done first. So this plus 4 has to go. So the inverse operation of adding 4 is subtracting 4. So remember, we have to do the same operation on both sides. Keep your equal sign vertically aligned. So when you subtract 4 from each side, we're going to go ahead and cancel. Our plus 4 and minus 4 adds to 0. And so we will have 5x is equal to 10. So now we have x being multiplied by 5. And the inverse of multiplication is division. So dividing both sides by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. So we can cross out our 5's. And that leaves us with x equal to 2 for a solution. Over on the right-hand side, solving this one, we're going to subtract 12 first. Okay, and you recognize that the plus 12 and the minus 12 add to 0. Bring down your 6r on the left-hand side. That gives us 6r is equal to 30. R is being multiplied by 6, so now we want to divide both sides by 6. 6 divided by 6 is indeed 1r, so we have r equal to 5 for a solution. Here's two more. This would be a good time for you to pause the video, see if you can work on these on your own, and I'll show you the solutions when you get back. All right, hope you gave those a try. Let's take a look at the first one on the left. We're trying to get the letter Q alone, so we have to subtract 8 from both sides. The 8's will cancel on the right-hand side, and we're left with a negative 4Q on the right, equaling a positive 24 on the left. Q is being multiplied by negative 4, so we want to divide both sides by negative 4. And the 4Q's, the negative 4 and the negative 4 give you a single 1. So we have Q is equal to negative 6. Over on the right-hand side, your favorite fractions. So we have 2/5 x minus a fourth. So we want a plus 1/4 to both sides. Okay, so on the left-hand side, the 1/4 will cancel. They add to 0. And we're left with 2/5 x equals 3/10. 3/10 plus a fourth. So in order to add 1/4 to 3/10, we need common denominators. So you could multiply them together and get 40, but there's a smaller denominator that will work, and the smaller denominator is 20. So we would have to multiply the fraction that is tenths by 2 over 2. So this one, if we multiply by 2 over 2, and the one on the right, we can multiply by 5 over 5 to get 20, right? So when we do that, our common denominator is 20ths. So we have 6 20ths plus 5 20ths, and that gives us 11 20ths. So one more step. We need to get rid of this 2/5 that's being multiplied by x. And you know we need to multiply by the reciprocal of 2/5, which is 5/2. So we're going to do that on both sides. Our 2's and 5's both cancel, leaving us just with our variable alone, which is what we're trying to do, is isolate the variable. So we have 11 20ths times 5/2. And what I did there was I divided 5 into 20. 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 20 4 times. So we have 11 times 1 is 11, 4 times 2 is 8. And then 8 goes into 11 once with a remainder of 3. So our mixed number is 1 3/8. Perfect painters will charge $25 for paint and materials and $25 per hour to paint a room. Another company called Classic Painters, they charge $250 flat fee to paint the same room. How many hours will it take for perfect painters charge to be the same as classic painters? Well, first what we want to do is pick a variable, figure out what we're looking for. Okay? And once we do that, we want to rewrite the information in mathematical symbols. So, perfect painters, we have $25 for paint and then $25 per hour. So 25 times every hour, maybe 25h plus 25. That sounds reasonable. So we want 25h plus 25 is what perfect painters will charge. And on the other side, we want to know when is that going to equal the 250 from classic painters. So this one, if we're solving this equation, we would want to subtract 25 from both sides. Remember, addition and subtraction comes first. Once we subtract 25 from both sides, these two add to 0. I get 25h is equal to 225. And then I need to divide by 25 since h is being multiplied by 25. And these 25s will cancel, and I'm left with h alone, which is what my goal is when solving equations. And how many times does 25 go into 225? Well, I don't know that off the top of my head, but if you think about $2.25, how many quarters are there in $2.25? Well, it looks like there's probably 9. So as long as it takes 8 hours, that's when the two companies will charge the same. Solve each equation. Number 6, you're solving for x and for m. So go ahead and pause the video here. It's a good time for you to try these on your own. Alright, I hope you gave those a try. So we're going to go ahead and solve these together. We're trying to get x alone, so I need to subtract 4 from both sides. When I do that, I am left with 0.2x is equal to 4.6. This is 4.0, right? And so here's my decimal point, 6 and a 4. And so now what I need to do is divide both sides by 0.2. Divide by 0.2. And my 0.2's cancel. And x is equal to 4.6 divided by 2/10. Let's see. I pull my calculator out here. And it looks like that is 23. So double check my math on that to make sure I did that correctly. And if I didn't, let me know in class. Over on the right hand side, we are going to subtract 0.06 from both sides. And we are left with 0.004 m is equal to, we're going to take 0.8 and subtract from that 0.06. And that leaves us 0.74. So use your calculators on these, okay? Then we want to divide by 0.004 because that's what m is being multiplied by. Remember, we need to do the same thing on both sides. So that tells us m is equal to, according to my calculator, 185. All right. Number 7, we're going to add 0.4 to both sides. Okay, on the right hand side we get 0.6, 0.4's cancel out, 0.3n is equal to that. Get my decimal point in there a little better. So we're going to divide by 0.3 on both sides, 0.3, so those cancel, and I have n is equal to 0.6 divided by 0.3, and you should get an answer of 2. Last one, subtract 0.8 on both sides. And these two cancel. Here's my equal sign. And on this one, I'm going to have 0.4 minus 0.8 is a negative 0.4. Negative 0.4. And we have negative 0.02n on the left-hand side. So we're going to divide by negative 0.02 on both sides. Divide by negative 0.02. So we have n is equal to, a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and we end up with 20. If I have my math correct, let me punch that in again. 0.4 divided by 0.02, yep, 20 is the correct answer. The height of an average mandrill, which is a large species of baboon, is 2.54 centimeters, more than 12 times the length of its tail. If the height is this, what is the length of his tail? So let's go ahead and translate this into a mathematical statement. It says the height, I'm going to call that h, is in math means equals, and it is 2.54 centimeters more than, so we're going to add that to more than 12 times the length of its tail. Okay, so L is the length of his tail, H is the height of the mandrill. If the height, they're telling us this height right here is 78.74, if that's equal to 2.54 plus 12 times the length, we want to know what's the length of his tail. Well, we're trying to get L alone, so we want to do the opposite or the inverse operation. This 2.54 is being added, so we want to subtract 2.54 from both sides. When we do that, we are left with 12L is equal to, these add to 0, right? 78.74 minus 2.54 gives us 76.2. And now we need to divide both sides by 12, right, to get that L alone, giving us a length of his tail equal to 6.35. And our units were centimeters, right? So 6.35 centimeters. Solving multi-step equations. So one of the things you're going to be doing is solving more than 2 steps. You're going to have multiple steps. And one of the hints I have here is make sure that you're simplifying each side of the equation first by combining like terms. Now when you combine like terms, it's not doing the opposite. So we have some like terms here, and let me just highlight those. So this plus x and this plus 4x will combine together. And then we also have this minus 10 will combine with the plus 3. Okay, so we need to combine those together first before we do anything else. Remember, when they're on the same side of the equal sign, they're not adding the opposite. So we have 3 minus 10, which is a negative 7, and x plus 4x is 5x. So on the left-hand side, we get 5x minus 7 equals 28. Okay, so that's just simplifying that left-hand side first. Here's our two x terms. Here are our two constants that are alike. So now we're ready to go ahead and do our inverse operations. We're going to add 7 to both sides. And after I add 7, these two cancel. I have 5x is equal to 35 on the right. 28 plus 7 is 35. X is being multiplied by 5, so the opposite is to divide by 5. Whatever I do on one side, I must do the same operation on the other. That leaves me with x equal to 7. Here's a couple more problems. Let's see, we got one more slide after this. So first of all, we want to distribute that 2. So we're going to multiply both terms by a negative 2. Okay, so negative 2 times x is a negative 2x. Now the common mistake that students make right here is forgetting this sign. You're taking a negative 2 times a negative 2. Whoops, didn't mean to grab that there. So this one is also a negative 2. A negative 2 times negative 2 is actually a positive 4. So we have a minus 2x plus 4, and then we have a plus x is equal to 16. So all I did was I got rid of these parentheses by using the distributive property. So now I have to combine my like terms again. So I have this minus 2x is alike with the plus x, and I don't do the opposite. Remember, these are like terms and they're on the same side, so we're just going to combine those together. A minus 2x and a plus 1x is a minus 1x plus 4 is equal to 16. So now we want to get the x term alone, so we're going to go ahead and subtract 4 from both sides. And when I subtract 4, these two add to 0. Bring down your equal sign. I have a minus x, don't forget that minus sign. 16 minus 4 is 12. But I don't want to know what minus x is, I want to know what positive x is. So I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 1. So that just changes the sign of everything. So minus times a minus is a plus, so I end up with x equals negative 12. And that is the solution. Alrighty, number 11 says 6x plus 2 times the quantity 7 minus x plus 10 is 20. So again, we have to get rid of those parentheses. So we start off with our 6x, just rewrite that. A positive 2 times 7 is a plus 14. And a positive 2 times a negative x is a minus 2x. Try to keep only one sign. Don't do plus a negative or minus a minus. Try to keep a single sign in front of each term. Now let's combine some like terms. What do we have that's alike? We have a 6x and a minus 2x. So remember to keep the signs in front of them, a plus 14 and a plus 10, right? So if we combine our like terms, we end up with 6x minus 2x is 4x. A plus 14 and a plus 10 is a plus 24, and that is equal to 20. So now we're ready to do our inverse operations. I'm going to subtract 24 from both sides. Additions and subtractions first, and then we'll do our multiplications and divisions. So we end up with 4x is equal to a negative 4. Last thing we need to do is divide both sides by 4 to get x alone, because x is being multiplied by 4. So those 4's cancel and become 1's. So we have x is equal to negative 1. And our last slide here. Lara cuts a triangle with angles x, 5x, and x plus 40. What are the measures of the angles? Well, there's a little bit you need to know about geometry to do this one. And it says, remember the angles in a triangle. What did the three angles in a triangle always add up to? And you should know they add up to 180 degrees. Okay, that's a piece of information you need to know in order to do this problem. So if she cuts a triangle with these three angles, to find the measures of the angles, we need to write an equation. So first of all, we have one angle is x, so we're going to add that angle, plus the second angle, which is 5x, plus the third angle, which is x plus 40. So the sum of the three angles in any triangle add to 180 degrees. So there is our equation. So we need to find our like terms, right? Which terms are alike? We have an x, we have a 5x, and another x. So we can add those three together, and we end up with 7x. So then we have 7x plus 40 is equal to 180. And the opposite of a plus 40 is a minus 40, so we want to subtract 40 from both sides. When we subtract 40, they cancel on the left, and we're left with 7x on the left equaling 140 on the right. X is being multiplied by 7. The opposite of multiplication is division. And whatever we do on one side, we must do the exact same operation on the other side. So we are left with x equals 20. So the measures of the angles, you're not done. You have not answered the question. You solved for x. We want to know, if you read the question says, what are the measures of the angles? We haven't found the measures of the angles yet. So the measures of the angles, we have to plug x back in. So our first angle was 20, so one of them is 20 degrees. Okay, so that's the first angle. The next one is 5x, so it's 5 times 20. I'll just do that down here, 5 times 20, and that's 100, right? So then we have 100 degrees. And then our third angle is x plus 40. Well, x was 20, right? So we're going to have 20 plus 40, and that is equal to 60. So now if you add these three angles up, 100 plus 60 plus 20, we should end up with 180, and we do. That is it for this video, guys. See you next time.